Hey guys, it's Ty, aka Timberlands. Welcome back to my channel. And today we have some exciting things to talk about. As you can tell by the title, I am pregnant. I will start by saying that I announced my pregnancy later than a lot of people who start vlogs, a little later than a lot of people in general. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap the beginning of my pregnancy up until the current point. And then after that, I'll be making weekly videos so that you guys can keep up with my progress. So stick around. I found out I was pregnant on July 3rd, and based on my menstrual period, I was about 5 weeks along. So I will say the first trimester of pregnancy was very tough, particularly the first few weeks. So one thing I want to really talk about is implantation bleeding, okay? And there's a lot about implantation bleeding that I did not know until after I got pregnant. I took a pregnancy test on July 3rd and it was positive, and I took another one just to confirm, and I had a lot of mixed emotions just because there's so much going on right now, but ultimately, like, I was really excited, and this is my rainbow baby. I had a miscarriage many years ago when I was I was 19, 20. So this was nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. On July 4th, my partner and I were coming back home from something, and I decided that I was going to just stay in bed and relax for the rest of the evening. Well, I was having like these like dull, not super painful or severe cramps, but they're like these dull cramps that you get like when you first start your period. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know what's going on. It was those cramps that make you feel like you have to go to the restroom. So I decided to go ahead and go to the restroom. I sat down, and when I wiped, there was like, TMI, FYI, there was like this reddish brown blood. So I immediately started panicking because I was just like, blood, pregnancy, not a good sign. Usually that's what people go by, but I was just like, no, this isn't good. My partner had actually left the house not too long before this happened, and so I called him and I was just like, come home, like, I'm bleeding, like, I don't know what's going on. And from the time that I called him until he got home, we decided that we were gonna go to urgent care. So we get to urgent care. I explained to them what was going on. I went ahead and got it admitted, and then that was a very long night. So they did the initial urine panel, they did the blood test, and they also did an intravaginal ultrasound. I ended up not leaving until 2 o'clock. So before that happened, the doctor came back and told me that on the ultrasound, they couldn't see anything. And so I was just like, okay, that's not good. Like, I'm 5 weeks, they should see something, but he said they couldn't see anything. He didn't specify what they couldn't see, but he said they couldn't see anything. And he also said my HCG levels were very low. So when I left the hospital, I really didn't have a lot of information that was given to me. It was like, either you have an ectopic pregnancy, you're having a miscarriage, you already miscarried, or this is just a threatened miscarriage and everything's gonna be fine. So that did nothing to really stop my nerves. So from about week 5, you'll understand why I'm doing this later. From about week 5 until that next week, I was just freaking out. Like, I had convinced myself I had an ectopic pregnancy. I was like, everything is bad. Like, I think just having had a previous miscarriage put me in the mindset that I was having another one. So that whole next week was very difficult for me. So finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to schedule a blood test, and I'm going to schedule an ultrasound with like an ultrasound center so that I can figure out what's going on. I went to my ultrasound exactly a week later, and the lady was just so nice and comforting, and she was helping me relax. And as soon as she put the jelly and the monitor on my stomach, she could see an amniotic sac. And I was just so relieved. She also said that with how far along I was, that she was expecting to only see the sac, and I was just so happy. But I also found out that I was only 4 weeks when I went to the hospital, and when I got to her, I was only 5 weeks, give or take a few days. So that made a lot of sense, and I was like, okay, I get it. I got my blood test back, and my HCG levels were doubling as they should every couple of days or so. So that was also really good news. And it just really turns out that when I was bleeding, it was implantation bleeding. I feel like when you're pregnant, you always have something to worry about, but ultimately, like, I was good. So I finally got a midwife, and she is wonderful. And after my first, I believe we had our first appointment, and then like maybe a week later, I started bleeding again. And I was like, what? I was like, no, like I just got over this fear. Like, what is going on? And it was just so, I just was so distraught. Like at this point, I was just defeated. I was like, this is just not going to, this baby is not going to stick. Like I was just, I was in such a bad headspace. And so I think I had more spotting for like maybe 2 or 3 days, and then there was like a little clotting in there, and I was just like, oh my God, this is like, it's at that point I was like, if it's gonna happen, I want it to just happen and get it over with. Like I just don't want to sit here and suffer this entire time. So I waited until I was about I want to say like 8 or 9 weeks pregnant or something like that, and I went for my next appointment with my midwife. And those in between times between those appointments just really, really suck. And I was just like, I'm so over it. So when I went to my appointment, I was trying to remain calm, but I really just wanted her to give me an ultrasound so I could make sure that everything was okay. And so she did the ultrasound, she did the fetal Doppler. She could not hear the heartbeat the first time, but whenever she did the ultrasound, she could see the baby. Baby was moving, baby was good. And she also expressed to me that my baby was implanted very far deep into my uterus. And she also told me, which is something that the internet does not prepare you or tell you, is that implantation bleeding can last longer for some people. Some people have implantation bleeding and some of them don't. And then some babies implant completely and some of them don't. So for me, my baby was taking a while to finally get into its final position. Okay, so whereas some people who have implantation bleeding may have it that one time, like when the egg initially implants. For me, I continue to have some spotting because my baby was still getting into its final like place before it was done. So that's why I had more spotting later on after that initial time. And I was just like, wow, if somebody would have told me this before, I'd probably be freaking out less. But my midwife was very clear about that is pretty, that happens to some people. And so ultimately everything was good. So that was pretty much like my experiences up until like 8 or 9 weeks. And I just want to caution y'all, like, anytime you have any spotting or bleeding, like, it is always good to reach out to your provider, whether you have an OBGYN or a midwife. Just don't Google stuff, okay? Because Google, one, is not going to diagnose you, and it causes like unnecessary anxiety. And then also a lot of the times, like, we get in our heads about stuff, and sometimes we just turn out like completely wrong. And I was wrong, but it was also because I didn't know. So just reach out, go get checked, make sure everything's good, and try not to stress out too much about it. That's just my advice to you. Nausea. Okay, so I was when I found out I was pregnant, I thought I was 5 weeks, like I told you guys, but I was really only 4 weeks. And I was nauseated probably from the time that the baby was fertilized. Like I just, it was just like early on, and it lasted for like a while. So the nausea was really, really kicking my butt to the point where I was like missing work and staying in bed. And I had so many of my friends and my clients like telling me ways that I could try to help with the nausea. And it just felt like nothing was working. And I guess I'm just one of those unlucky moms who have to deal with the intense nausea, but it was just really intense. Nausea was honestly my first symptom of pregnancy, because although my period was late, sometimes my period does reroute itself. So that really wasn't a giveaway. But for me, the giveaway was the nausea, because I don't get nauseated like that. And it's just like, it's very intense. Like I haven't really been throwing up a lot. I've thrown up twice. Both times it was a lot. Like I threw up 7 times the first time, TMI, I'm sorry. And then I threw up like 10 times the second time I threw up. But it hasn't been like throwing up every day. But the food aversion has been very bad. And the nausea was very bad for quite some time. So it took a while for me to get a handle on it. But my friend, she told me about something called a C-band. And it is an acupressure band that there's a ball and it presses on this part of your wrist that controls like the area of the brain that makes you feel nauseated. So I've been wearing this and it does provide me with some relief. Now, sometimes if nausea is going to come, nausea's just going to come. So there's really nothing you can do about it sometimes. But I will say throughout the day, it has been helping quite a bit. So my best friend got it for me from Amazon, and it comes in a pack that looks like this. It's called C-band Nausea Relief Mama version. It also comes with lozenges and the essential oils, the ginger essential oils. And all of this is ginger and it's all natural, so it might be something to try out if you are battling nausea. So, you know, if you don't have nausea, consider yourself very, very lucky. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this first video. Again, I'm gonna record multiple videos just today, so if you see me in the same clothes, it's just because I'm doing them back to back. The next video, I will go into the last few weeks of my first trimester, and then the video after that, I'll be talking about where I am now. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.